Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, helping higher education marketing leaders share knowledge about learning, strategies, and tactics that are relevant today. See what you can learn today by listening to one of our episodes.
Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, hosted by Concept 3D. If you like our content, please follow and subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple, or Google. My name is Shiro Hattori, and I'll be your host today. And I'm very excited for the guest who's going to be joining us to talk about why even big name schools need to think about brand, as well as the importance of becoming a dramaturg in marketing. And we'll cover what a dramaturg is later, so no worries if you don't get that. To discuss the topic, I have Catherine Tolleson, brand manager at Texas A&M, joining us today. Catherine, welcome to the show.
Hi, Shiro. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's great to have you as well. And as an icebreaker, I do ask all my guests, please tell me what you love about higher ed.
That's such a good question, and I feel like I should have thought about that before I got on this podcast. But I feel like my gut reaction to that question is just I love the community, and I love being a part of something that's truly built towards steering the future of just going towards the future, be that with students and how we teach them, building new leaders, industry leaders, country leaders, everybody. So yeah, I love the fact that we're building towards the future and getting to be a part of that from the beginning.
Well, great. Thank you so much for sharing that. So in terms of our topics for today, I know we had a chance to chat just last week and we were able to get this recording on the schedule pretty quickly, but you have a pretty interesting background. Can you tell us a little bit more about your role and how you got into higher ed as well?
Sure. So, I have kind of an unconventional background in how I came to find marketing, and especially going into branding and my background with digital marketing. I actually went to school originally as a musical theater major, and quickly found out that I did not want to starve and wanted a consistent paycheck, and just wanted to also be a little bit more well-rounded. I think I love the arts, but it's all or nothing, and there were other things I was interested in, and but something that was so vital to the theater world that I found translated as I moved into marketing was the concept of storytelling. And that was, I think, where my hook was with marketing and with theater. Was I enjoyed getting to tell a story to audiences. And so that was the big bridge for me when I decided, okay, I'm going to move into marketing instead. In theater, there is a job in every production called a dramaturg. And the dramaturg is somebody who basically helps the whole cast and production team understand the who, what, when, where, and why of the story you're telling. Is it set in, the 1800s? Where is it? Are we in Texas? Are we in London? Where are we? And then basically the world building, so that, the actors and everybody else involved can understand what they're diving into. And so when I got into marketing, that is kind of the mindset I've tried to maintain. And that's kind of how I grew to really appreciate, especially digital marketing and data analytics. So most recently at Texas A&M, I was working as a digital strategist for all the colleges, schools, and recruitment marketing. Prior to that, I worked in business-to-business marketing with a company called Tetra Pak. And the thing that I found in common with both roles was in building, an analysis of personas and just understanding what the client's needs were. The first thing I had to do was also understand the audiences we were trying to cater to and what were their actual needs. That's a little bit of how I kind of came into my most current background. And then because of that, I guess more creative side, that opened doors for the branding side of things, which I'm really excited to get started with.
Yeah, it's really funny. Right after our intro call, I actually had a conversation with someone who's been marketing in the marketing industry for like 30 years. And I told her about our call, and I was like, yeah, somehow she has a theater background. She's a Google Analytics specialist, and she's a brand manager. And she's like, what? How do those three things come together? She was very impressed.
I'm really glad I have that background because it this kind of helps you understand the more niche stuff about what you're looking at. So yeah.
Yes, and this person I spoke to was like, you know what, that's actually really good, probably because she probably brings a unique perspective to things, right? And that's like, I think, an important key personality trait of becoming a good marketer is, like being able to kind of flip the switch and see things from a different lens. And tell me, as a dramaturg, like, so it helps you help understand your audience, right, to make sure they're understanding like what's going on during the theater play. Like, are there times where you're like, I need to shift, like, what's the right word? It's not script, but you have to shift like the show a little bit just because you've understood that your audience really isn't catching along and stuff. Are those things that happen in theater?
I wouldn't say that there's like this moment where you have to flip a switch. I think that's the beauty of production is it's such a collaborative effort. So I think the dramaturg is working pretty closely with people like the director, and it's kind of you hold their hand through it. I think it depends on the company you're working with, but in my experience, what I observed was that, the dramaturg was pretty heavy on the beginning and works pretty closely with the director, helping maintain that vision that the director has in mind. And oftentimes I found that, especially in smaller areas, the dramaturg might also be the director, which kind of helps because then, I don't know, it's all in one brain and it just makes things a little more fluid. Um, but you do certainly have to take into account like where the production is being had. What is the message you're trying to tell? And are there things you need to keep in mind depending on the audiences and the demographic you're reaching? Like literally, where's your theater and how does that demographic accept certain art forms? So yeah.
That's great. It sounds like we're talking about marketing, like literally exactly what you explained. Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about your role. So you're just starting this week as the brand manager at Texas A&M, but before that, you were working as a marketing strategist at Texas A&M, and you told me you were playing the role of detective a lot. Can you tell us a lot of the things you were detecting and what you were doing in your role as well?
All right. Yes. So as the marketing strategist, my particular role was catering towards the colleges, schools, and recruitment marketing. So the thing I found is a lot of people have a different understanding of what digital marketing entails. Some people and some of the colleges had, they just needed someone to come in and consult on like, what is Google Analytics and why should I use it and how does it help me in my school? Other people were more well versed, and so we got to get more specific in how they were approaching certain campaigns, either with paid ads or organic, or even going so far as building personas so that they could pivot what their existing campaign looked like.
Mm-hmm.
I say I played detective because a lot of times I found, and this I think is not necessarily limited to higher education. I do think it's something that can easily be found in the private sector as well. It's just a disconnect between, especially when you're in such big, corporations, or in this case, a big university, there can be disconnect on what is the key messaging we're trying to send out. I think in a decentralized format, which is how Texas A&M is set up right now, there's a central marketing team, and then we have empowered, or the goal is to make sure that all the colleges and schools are empowered to basically stand on their own two feet and cast the vision and send the message of like, this is what Texas A&M stands for. So do
Mm-hmm.
with that what you will, in the perspective of like how that applies to nursing students and how does that apply to students applying for degrees in agriculture or engineering. And so taking those values and making sure that it translates still. But I say all that because a lot of times the colleges and schools, like, they don't necessarily have an in-house consultant. So they would come to central marketing, and a lot of times their previous leadership, they would have hired different agencies and multiple different agencies over time as leadership would change. And so with that comes different understandings of what is our messaging and just different connotations. And different campaigns over time that maybe didn't fully wrap up. And so I found myself playing detective and understanding like what was the goal? Is that still the goal that you're trying to achieve? And sometimes it wasn't. And they just didn't realize that as the baton was being passed on, that the vision for their school had changed. So yeah, it was a lot of just kind of undoing little knots and finding, where the trail ended.
Yeah, and I'm sure the mandatory migration to GA4 didn't help with any of that
No, it did
detective work.
not. It did make things a little bit messy, but
Yeah,
we got there. We got there.
that's great. And you mentioned a lot of the schools of or colleges of, like, what are some of the biggest colleges of at Texas A&M?
Oh, well, definitely engineering. Engineering
Hmm.
is one of our biggest schools. The Mays Business School is also really, really popular. There is no problem when it comes to finding people who want to apply to go to school there. Also, pretty popular is our agriculture programs
Hmm.
across the board. I didn't know until I came to A&M how many different like avenues within agriculture there were. I'm almost embarrassed to admit how limited my knowledge of it was, but it's quite vast. And just as you look at engineering, like there's technical engineering, there's mechanical engineering, there's aerospace engineering, just like that. There's so many different niche avenues when it comes to agriculture. And how the university is connected to that is interesting to me. So those are probably the
Hmm.
three biggest ones I can think of off the top of my head. But then we have other,
Hmm.
sister programs within the Texas A&M system, like the Galveston. For anybody who's interested in Maritime
Right.
Academy, like that is a great option as well. That again, until I came to A&M, I didn't really think of as an option. You think of
Hmm.
schools near the Great Lakes, and for especially kids in Texas or near Texas who are interested in that, it's a great
Hmm.
option. So that was actually a lot of stuff I got to learn more about as I played detective with the colleges and
Right.
schools, just understanding what they have to offer and how can we share that messaging with the audiences.
Gotcha. And in your case, explaining about the KPIs and the different goals that different schools may have, like maybe agriculture is they launch a new program, and so their main goal shouldn't be like enrollment immediately. If they're launching something new, they need to maybe measure something a little bit higher, like how many views are they getting to their website versus like enrollment, which maybe is the business school, which has no issues with enrollment, like you said. Their North Star could be enrollment goals, right? And so that's where like the different goals come into hand, right?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There's so many different examples. I think like probably like for Mays, for example, there might be more push, and this changes, I think, from different
Hmm.
semester to semester. But like for example, there's not really a problem with getting students to apply. But if there's students that we're wanting to have apply for, something more of an online MBA, that's a new thing that we're offering and trying to get that program going. That's going to have a different goal than students who are the traditional MBA program type, who would be there in
Hmm.
person every day, just a totally different demographic versus a non-traditional student who is doing this online, and what their needs are very different. So, and that's the whole reason they're probably doing an online program, is for some flexibility. So being able to make sure that that's marketable, it's just a totally different goal.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. What are like your first steps if let's say, hey, we're Catherine, we need help with our understanding our GA4 instance. Like, what are the first couple things you do when you get access to a new GA4 account?
Well, why did you get GA4? First of all, what did you understand this to be? What was the reason you wanted this tool? A lot of times, 9 out of 10 times, it was, oh, so I can understand the traffic I have coming on a website. And then depending on how long they were using it, we developed a series of questions, because that was a recurring question, was, can you help me with my GA4? Actually, it would be, can you help me with my analytics, period, which is such a broad question. I was like, ooh, we can measure so many different things. So a lot of times I would ask, well, are you looking for a specific campaign that you are doing on your website? Do you have a specific form you're trying to ensure that students are going to? Are people just not visiting your website enough and you're looking for ways to promote this page? Who has access to this page? Was this created by an external agency or was this done by an internal marketing person? And are there tags? Are we using other Google tools within that whole Google Analytics realm? So basically understanding what is the baseline that I'm working with here. And then we can decide if we're turning this ship around completely or if we're just doing a little bit of a degree change. And oftentimes, the big thing that we found in my experience was Tag Manager got really messy because of how many different agencies a lot of times schools would end up working with. And that is not anybody necessarily doing the wrong thing. It happens over time, with so many different changes of leadership that could happen, or, just as people grow into different roles, stuff gets kind of forgotten. And so we found with one school, for example, they had something of like 150 different tags that were impacting how just like the functionality of the site in general. And it was loading really slowly. And half of those tags were for things that were no longer relevant. So we turned off something like, I don't know, like 85 different tags. And even then, like the remaining tags that were left were question marks of, I don't really know who we're supposed to talk to about this. So it was, again, that playing detective and trying to find what's my next step here to undo that so that we can get you to a solid baseline level where you can move forward without having to necessarily build the plane as you continue to fly.
Gotcha. Yep. Yeah. We recently hosted an event around GA4 and like common mistakes. An agency partner here in Denver sees, and that was one of them. It was more specific to events, but just having like so many events in your back end that it's like you lose track of what is a conversion, what isn't. It makes the data like really hard to look at. So I think
Yes.
cleanup and just like looking at your systems to make sure everything is value adding is so important. It's definitely something I struggle with too, because you don't want to get rid of something and you're like, oops. So like that fear always like prevents you from hitting the delete button, but it definitely does or can prevent you from moving forward. So I completely agree. Awesome. Well, let's switch gears a little bit here and start talking about your new role and some of the new responsibilities you'll be taking on. So this is just a little bit my own opinion, but from what I know, A&M is a big brand, right? And I don't think from what I've seen from admissions data or enrollment data that they're having, as big of a fear around the enrollment cliff in the next 2 years. Why does a school like, with this big name and big brand, why do they need to invest in brand?
I'm really excited about this role because I'm joining at a time where the brand is something that we're really diving into even more than before, especially with the new leadership that we're under. And the big question we want to answer is how can we be relevant, not just in Texas, which is, I think, where our brand is so well known, but also nationally. So I think we have a pretty prominent presence within the South, but across the nation, I think we want to be known. We want to be up there as accredited experts in the fields that we offer at the university. So that's part of it. Part of why we're really trying to focus on the brand and how do we just level up, essentially. And then also, and I know we talked about this a little bit in our previous conversation, but in the world of marketing, you can't get behind. And Texas A&M is a brand that cannot get behind. We value tradition, and I think there's so much that it has to offer, and sharing what those traditions are, but also remembering that our audience today is not the same audience it was in 1980, and making sure that they can understand those values through the lens of what a a student or a prospective student is looking for um, in a university or in a college, it might be different. They might be looking for different things. They are competing for a totally different kind of workforce than after they graduate than what, different generations were. And I think that will continue to be the case. So we are trying to make sure that this brand is relevant 10, 20 years from now. And I think that starts with thinking of, what have we done and what can we do moving forward so that it's not just the students who are applying today for the university, but also in the future, and setting ourselves up for success so that as we continue to pivot, we have established that really healthy baseline in what our brand stands for and making sure it's something that everybody can understand.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that. Is this a new role? I think I forgot actually to ask in our last call.
To my knowledge, it is. I'm sure that it's been fulfilled in under different
Right.
kinds of titles, but this is, to my understanding, the first time we have like an official brand manager. We're going to have a branding hub within the marketing system at Texas A&M University. So, that's going to include this branding hub is going to include other things like data and analytics and, um, recruitment marketing and how do they apply to the brand as well. But there is going to be a very specific area that is specifically, I keep saying that word, but it really is, it's so niche, where the goal is looking at the brand. It's just people who are going to be seeing how can we elevate it. And so, yeah, and it's all based on this new leadership that we're under and the vision that they're casting. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Is this part of like an overall strategic plan that marketing was able to be involved with as well?
You mean like for the university as a whole, or?
Correct. Yeah. Just like bringing a new title, like this is a pretty big responsibility,
Yes, I don't know how far back it went in conversation as they started like reevaluating the structure of things, but it became pretty clear once they started, making moves that brand and how we approach it was going to need to be a pivotal role. And I think that is something that is going to definitely contribute to getting that national recognition that President Welsh is striving for us to achieve. So I don't know that it was necessarily pillar number one of the strategy or the initial strategy, but it became pretty clear early on.
It's amazing. And what are you excited for in this new role? I know you're just starting, so I know you're just at the very forefront of it.
I'm excited to have a seat at the table in the sense that I've gotten to keep my boots on the ground, but I also am going to get to be a part of where the action is taking place and how we are making those decisions and kind of getting to see more of it up front. I was at the part of the table where, I was building up the personas and understanding, okay, this is where we need to go. I will pass this information on to you. And so the collaborative side of things, where now I'm on the other side of it, where I'm going to get to put those ideas into motion. I think I'm really excited about that. There's some big things coming down the pipeline for Texas A&M that I don't think I'm at liberty to talk about in detail, but I'm very excited to see what happens and how we accomplish those goals. And just, yeah, that's what I'm most excited about, is just being able to have a seat at the table and just look at things from a different point of view.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all that. I think we need to check in probably like in 6 months to see how all the good work you're doing is translating into execution or planning. I'm really excited to learn more about how your role develops and how things develop at A&M. I'm wondering where our listeners can connect with you and to learn more about what you're up to.
So I am on LinkedIn. Look me up there. I'm on all social media platforms. I would look me up on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. Those are the main places.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for joining, and thank you to our audience for tuning in on this episode. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shiro.